Hello everyone, Mark Merrill with Firm. It's about Maine red flag laws on question 2 in the November ballot. From both sides of the political aisle, folks, here's our report on the latest debate or debacle maybe on Maine's question 2 to pass red flag laws. Replace what's called yellow flag laws, except that's not the actual legal name of what it is, and we'll explain. The reason we have the picture of Robert Card up here and the awful and horrible incident of lives lost back on October 25th, 2023 is an example of what happens when bureaucrats get in the way. They don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to laws that affect not only the general public first and primarily, but they kind of tie the hands of law enforcement officers and even the armed forces who should have picked up on Mr. Card's mental status. But they blew it. So what it's really called, ladies and gentlemen, as we move on here on Firm under the review of Maine Red Flag Law Question 2 to the general Maine public this November. It's called an Extreme Risk Protection Order Law. It's under Title 34B, Behavioral and Developmental Services, Chapter 3, Mental Health, Chapter 4, Hospitalization, Article 3, Involuntary Hospitalization. We're going to run through it rather quickly. But the definitions under subsection 3862A, number 1, a lot of definitions under number 1. A dangerous weapon has the same meaning as in Title 17A, Section 2, subsection 9, including a firearm, defined in Title 17A, Section 2, subsection 12A. Extended restrictions means the continued threat-based restrictions imposed by the court pursuant to a subsection 6. C, under definitions, initial restrictions means the immediate temporary 30-day threat-based restrictions pursuant to another subsection 4. Skipping down to definition F under law enforcement officer is a person vested by law with the power to make arrests for crimes or serve criminal process, whether that power extends to all crimes or is limited to specific crimes, and has a current and valid certificate issued pursuant to Title 25. G, likelihood of foreseeable harm means a substantial risk in the foreseeable future of serious physical harm to the person as manifested by recent behaviors or threats of or attempts at suicide or serious self-inflicted harm. Section I, under definitions, prohibited person means a person subject to Title 15, Section 393. J, protective custody means protective custody under Section 3862. K, restricted person means a person taken into protective custody by a law enforcement officer who the officer has probable cause to believe possesses or controls or may acquire a dangerous weapon, and who is found by a medical practitioner to present a likelihood of foreseeable harm. Oh, yeah. What happened back then? Janet Mills, with your big highfalutin commission that was going to examine this after 18 people have died from a maniac. You know how long he was held in examination before he was discharged, or however it was done with the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard? 2 months, folks. That's all. And they let him go. Didn't find anything unusual or mentally abnormal about him. A couple more things here, folks, under the Extreme Risk Protection Order law. It's not the yellow flag law. It's the Extreme Risk Protection Order law. Title 34-B. I continue. Section 2, after the definitions, assessment by a medical practitioner, which we were just about to get to. The section applies when a law enforcement officer has taken a person into protective custody. A medical practitioner under this subsection shall assess whether a person presents a likelihood of foreseeable harm. In assessing the person, a medical practitioner may consult with other medical professionals as the medical practitioner determines advisable. If the practitioner finds the person can benefit from treatment and services, the medical practitioner shall refer the person to treatment and services. So, that's the nutshell version, folks. There it is, taken right from Maine.gov. You can look it up yourself. Make a copy. He should have been examined, folks. Held against his will, but he wasn't. Now, moving on here, folks, when it comes to lawmakers getting their shot at making sure the red flag law does not go in. Of course, this is from our friend Laurel Libby from Minot, Auburn-Minot. This will be a little bit different here, folks, as we kind of squeeze in a lot of things in a short period of time on this red flag law that's coming before you, the voters, on November 4th this year. Ms. Libby posted a few days ago, "It is not every day that Governor Mills and I agree on policy. More often than not, we're on opposing sides. On this day," she said, "however, I wholeheartedly agree with her that question 2 is wrong for Maine. To join us and the rest of the Maine people and vote no on question 2. The question," she says, "ignores due process regarding your constitutional right to keep and bear arms." Oh, yeah. Remember that one, folks? We were just talking about it in a previous podcast. The Second Amendment. And to conclude Ms. Libby's statement, saying that the question ignores due process regarding your constitutional rights to keep and bear arms and puts both the public and law enforcement in danger. The Portland Press-Herald started interviewing Janet Mills, but she made a statement of her own. That's a surprise. Not letting the media do her work for her. Or her dirty work, maybe we should say, ladies and gentlemen. Is that it? Is that the way it works? Question 2, quotes the Portland Press-Herald, "The so-called red flag measure has been billed as strengthening gun safety measures. In reality, it will undermine the safety of the public." And then we have the coup de grace. The ultimate explanation for all of you ladies and gentlemen out there, all of you ladies and gentlemen out there in the general public. Here comes the statement, folks. I'm sure you probably heard it or even read it by now, but we got to put it all up there for you. Ms. Mills. She came out, get closer here, folks. Ms. Mills came out against the proposed red flag law on the November ballot back on September 26th. She announced on that day her official opposition to a statewide referendum that will ask voters if they want to institute tougher gun safety regulations, arguing the proposed red flag law will ultimately undermine public safety. Gee, didn't we just hear that from the Portland Press-Herald? Here is, folks, how the question reads. Make sure you get a copy of all the referendum and statewide questions long before November 4th, just to be on the safe side. Question 2 will read, quote, do you want to allow courts to temporarily prohibit a person from having dangerous weapons if law enforcement, family, or household members show that the person poses a significant danger of causing physical injury to themselves or others? Maine is the only state that has what's known as a yellow flag law, which allows law enforcement to take guns away from people after a mental health evaluation. It is not called the yellow flag law. This is a media joke. It is called the Extreme Risk Protection Order. And it's right there. You see yellow flag law anywhere in there, folks? I don't. Get over it, media. Red flag laws, known as extreme risk protection orders. Ha, ha, ha! Yeah, then they try to back themselves up. Too late. These orders are active in 21 states, including 4 in New England, including us. Before the mass shooting in Lewiston, the yellow flag law had been used sparingly, as law enforcement had reported it was cumbersome. Oh. Tick-tock, where's my clock? Oh, geez, I'm late for a coffee break. I gotta go meet so-and-so for a important meeting other than, people's lives or tick-tock. It's all about the clock. Your precious time. If you're a lawmaker, you damn well better put your thoughts and personal stuff outside the door and focus on what's going to affect the general public. So this never, ever, ever happens again. Ever. So as Mills goes on with her statement back on the 26th of September, an independent commission, as we mentioned, investigated the tragedy in Lewiston that under the current law, local law enforcement had sufficient probable cause to take Robert Card II into protective custody and start a petition to confiscate his firearms. That has both fueled calls for stronger protections as well as prompted more frequent use of the yellow flag law. In an op-ed in the Portland Press-Herald, Mills cited 1,100 times the yellow flag law had been used to remove weapons and protect individuals in the public. Our law, quote, she said, has been preventing suicide, getting people help, and saving lives every day, she wrote. Nope. Didn't. It really didn't, folks. So continuing on, ladies and gentlemen, as we will put up the actual yellow flag law that we have on the books and on the record. least you can start looking at it. Get as much of it posted up here as possible. There. Next, another read from the media. This one from WGME. Either radio or TV, we're not sure, but it's by an Alison LaPierre, back on September 19th. Campaign organizations across the state are ramping up ahead of November's referendum. The Question 2 debate, as we'll call it, is igniting fires across the state. Those under Maine's current gun laws are noting, let's try that again. Those in Maine's current gun laws are insufficient, while opponents fear that a new law can do more harm than good. Oh, is that right? Well, gee whiz. Why don't you go through this right here, tongue-in-cheek, item by item, line by line, definition by definition, all the way through the medical examiner's procedure that should have been done on Robert Card, and maybe eventual hospitalization so that innocent lives would not have ever been interrupted, let alone be murdered. Let's get it out of the way, folks. Laura Whitcomb of Keep Maine Safe Ballot Committee said, oh, brother. We're very strong in encouraging people to vote no on 2 because we feel that it doesn't provide Mainers with the due process they need, which we've already gone through. Jack Sorensen, spokesperson for Yes on Question 2 campaign, disagrees with that characterization, saying Question 2 maintains key protections in Maine's current laws, uphold due process, and align extreme risk protection orders with Maine's existing laws from domestic abuse that has been on the books for decades. Protections are the same, and this measure doesn't change that, he says. Whitcomb said as we get closer to the November voting date, people should definitely be seeing a lot of signs out, bumper stickers, and continuing to provide education that makes an important decision easier. Maine Gun Safety Coalition, Nicole Palmer, an advocate who cited the Lewiston mass shootings and failures to confiscate the shooter's guns as ridiculous. And she spearheads the efforts for the referendum state's current yellow flag law, or the law right here, as it is spelled out. She says the yellow flag law, as it currently stands, is ineffective. She goes on and says extreme risk protection orders would empower families to go directly to the loved one that's in crisis and temporarily limit their access to deadly weapons if they consider themselves being in danger, or a danger, I believe is the way she put it, a danger to themselves or to others. David Trahan, Executive Director of Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, or SAM. Our view as it was created was through a legislative process in which a lot of people, Democrats and Republicans, and people from different political persuasions came together and passed one that's incredibly complex. Now, you know what, Mr. Trahan? Sometimes things are complex, but they don't do the job. They don't save people's lives now, do they? Just saying. Last but not least, folks, on our firm program about Maine Red Flag Law, Question 2, coming up in November. Legal Clarity Maine, published back in January of 2025. Whoa, how about that? 7, almost 8 months ago. The red flag law represents a significant step in addressing gun violence and enhancing public safety by allowing courts to temporarily restrict firearm access to individuals deemed at risk. This legislation aims to prevent potential harm before it occurs. This guide on Legal Clarity Maine, just look it up, folks, and you'll find exactly what I'm reading here. It offers an overview of Maine's approach to the law, detailing key aspects such as implementation criteria, order processes, penalties for noncompliance, and rights available to those affected. To obtain an Extreme Risk Protection Order, or ERPO, in Maine, an eligible individual must be able to and file a petition in district court. The petition must be accompanied by a sworn affidavit outlining evidence supporting the claim that a respondent poses a significant risk. Once filed, the court may schedule an ex parte hearing if there is an assertion of restricting the respondent's access to firearms for up to 14 days. That's 2 weeks. Following the issuance of a temporary ERPO, a full hearing is scheduled where both the petitioner and the respondent can be present and with evidence and arguments. Violating an extreme risk protection order in Maine carries serious legal consequences. When it's in place, the respondent must surrender any firearms they own to law enforcement and prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms for the duration of the order. Any time during those 14 days. Does that make sense to a lot of people? It better. Non-compliance, such as failing to relinquish firearms or attempting to acquire new ones, is classified as a Class D crime under Maine law, punishable by up to 364 days in jail and a fine of up to $2,000. Doesn't sound like enough to me, but the legal framework aims to deter violations by imposing penalties that may include incarceration. That sounds a lot better. A lot better. Also, it can include financial repercussions and probation. The enforcement of ERPO violations involves coordination between the courts and law enforcement agencies. Yeah, it's called working hand in hand, not the way the deflectocrats do it, or Mills and her cronies do, and leave Republicans out of public hearings and even ban them from coming to midnight sessions, doing candlelight vigils of some type in the State House building. Well, security banned them from coming in. Talk about a one-sided dictatorship. Treasonous continuation of BS by Janet Mills. Give me a break, folks. It's common sense. Everybody, bipartisan, must be available and allowed to be part of the process, but not according to Janet Mills. Keep that little side note in mind. Respondents facing an extreme risk protection order, we'll call it ERPO in Maine, are afforded specific legal rights and potential defenses to ensure a fair, get it, left-wing, radical, egghead, nut jobs, a fair judicial process. They have the opportunity to contest the order at a full hearing where they can present evidence and testimony challenging the necessity of the ERPO. The right to legal representation is crucial as well, allowing respondents to seek counsel. Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. Wow. Do you realize that, Janet? The right to legal representation is crucial, allowing respondents to seek counsel who can navigate the complexities of the ERPO statute and advocate on their behalf. And pretty much, folks, that's the way the cookie crumbles. This law is very much, folks, on the edge of being thrown out with the dirty water through the sewer, keep it in mind, we don't need this. We don't want this change. We have a so-called yellow flag law already. It's called the Extreme Risk Protection Order Law. Title 34-B, look under Behavioral and Developmental Services, Chapter 3, and Mental Health and Hospitalization chapters beyond. In the meantime, folks, one final note from a lady you know very well as an author, sometimes controversial in the past, Maya Angelou. What does she have to say? Hate. It has caused a lot of problems in the world, but has not solved one yet. Hate builds walls, but never bridges. Let's walk the path of peace, empathy, and kindness today and always. Thank you, Ms. Angelou. That quote was posted just a few days ago on International Day of Peace. Right there. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us on Firm Fairness in Reporting Media. I'm Mark Merrill, and right behind me here, also, find our podcasts on YouTube and Twitter, or X, 5 days a week, and once posted, are available 24 hours a day. Contact us with any ideas you may have or suggestions, and even your comments on this topic or others at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. As always, folks, pray constantly for our safety, our security, and for your willingness to take something out or prevent something from becoming part of a law that already exists and should have been executed, but was not. Peace to all.